Hello, everybody. Happy Friday again. It's Coach Sands here. I hope you are all well. I know a few of you might be having load shedding as we speak, but hopefully you can watch in playback mode if you're unable to watch this afternoon. But please swipe in, tell me that you're here. I'm really hoping today we can have a nice interactive session. We're going to be chatting about weekend eating. I know that's a challenge for many people, but we're going to take it a step further and look at the festive season and all the challenges that come with the festive season as well. So hopefully there are a few people on board. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask myself some questions, which gets a little bit awkward. But yeah, swipe in, say that you're here, and we will take it from there. But I will start off with a bit of a slideshow, and then hopefully that will get you to ask some questions. All right, so you'll see some of these slides are a bit familiar. You would have seen some of them in the past when we chatted around it, but I'm hoping we can add a little bit of a new spin on things. All right, so often our mentality, oh dear, it's a Friday, is such that we think, well, you know what, we've been good Monday to Friday, what's a little treat here and there over the weekend? And to be honest, that's absolutely fine, but unfortunately, a lot of the time, the little treat here and there compounds and becomes sort of a whole weekend of treating. And often we call it cheating as well, which then has a negative connotation, which we don't want. The whole point of a treat is to get some feel-good hormones. So if you are going to treat, make sure you enjoy it and don't feel guilty afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to give you one slide with a few scary stats. You can see here the green columns sort of indicate what it's in an example, but for example, maybe you're on 1800 calories during the week on your eating plan and you consistently eat well, sort of Monday to Thursday. Then along comes Friday, you get invited out, or there's dinner, or date night, and suddenly the calories take a big spike. And here you can see, I mean, it's so easy to go up to 3,000 calories even, just by adding a few alcoholic beverages or desserts to your meal, adding a little bit more in the way of starch. And you can see that if you look at the last column there, 3 days of sort of going a little bit overboard can affect your entire calorie intake, your average calorie intake for the week. And what we aim for is to sort of have a deficit of 500 calories per day for every day of the week in order to lose between 0.5 and 1 kilogram of fat mass. Now, that's obviously very theoretical. It's not always going to turn out like that in practice, but that's a guideline. So you can see, just looking at that orange column, that your average daily calorie intake is now significantly more than your prescribed, for example, 1,800 calories. It's now sitting on roughly 2,100. So that's going to really undo all the good that has happened during the week. Okay, so in summary there, overindulging can definitely be detrimental, and it almost gets a feeling of sort of binge eating. I've been so good during the week, and now, wow, okay, I'm just going to let my hair down. And unfortunately, that does result in overeating. Rather than still having some control over the situation and saying, you know what, I'm planning to have that extra glass of wine or that small chocolate bar, it just becomes a bit of a feeding frenzy. Okay, so I've used these slides again. I used them before, and I think some of the time it is a bit of shock tactics, puts things into perspective a little bit. And another sort of topic that I'd like to chat about is this whole good, bad, cheat versus treat mentality, which we really need to move away from. And like I said earlier, it's about treating yourself, and there's a need for treat. If you want to make this new eating plan and all these new eating habits long-term or sustainable, you need to include the treats. So what we should rather be looking at is calling them sort of the more nutritious versus the not so nutritious foods. And maybe then we get away from that negative sort of mindset that some foods are good, some are bad, some are evil, some are whatever. I think we really need to try and shift that mindset and move more towards the terms nourishing versus not so nourishing. The problem when we put a negative word to something like a food or foods is that suddenly it becomes a cheat, and there are so many negative emotions that come with that. So instead of actually reaping the rewards and getting some nice positive benefits from eating that meal, you are now riddled with guilt. You probably say to yourself, well, the last 2, 3, 4 weeks has been a complete waste. Look at me now. And then it just spirals. And you then just end up binge eating nonstop. So it's really, really important that we change that mindset, and it's not going to happen overnight because we've been programmed over the years to almost think like that. But to really accept and embrace treat foods for just that reason, to get a treat and to get feel-good hormones from them. Okay, so we've got some pictures here. The one is a kawaii smoothie, the other one is an Oreo McFlurry. You'll see similar calorie-wise, but nutrition-wise, quite different. And there are going to be some vitamins, minerals in the mix with the kawaii peanut butter berry smoothie, whereas Oreo, not so much. It's giving you lots of calories, but it's definitely going to fall short when it comes to the vitamins, minerals, fiber, and the likes. So yes, you're not going to undo your calorie intake, and you're probably going to get quite a few feel-good hormones from the Oreo McFlurry. But the important part and the important message there is to say that they are nutritionally different. So it's not to say that 7 days a week you can replace your healthy smoothie with an Oreo McFlurry. Yes, calorie-wise, you'll be ticking the box, but you're not going to be very healthy. And we really need to take that into consideration, is that the treat foods are not there to feed your body, to nourish you. They're there for other reasons, to give you the feel-good hormones, but you need to still do it in moderation. Then we move on to something like the drinks. So we can see the Coca-Cola on the right there, your orange juice on the left. Again, here you can see sort of a little bit lower in calories for the 1 cup if you have the orange juice. But in terms of actual goodness, my advice would always be, gee whiz, rather eat your calories than drink them. And both these situations, you can see the carb intake is sky high. There's almost nothing in terms of orange juice. So you can see it's a tiny bit of protein, but it counts as nothing. No fat. And the problem with this is that what happens is now those sugar molecules, when they're digested, they enter the gut, those sugar molecules just run freely into the bloodstream. They cause a major spike in blood sugar levels. There's no protein, there's no healthy fat holding those sugar molecules back. It's almost an analogy of a bit of a sort of barrier that the fats and protein and fat, protein, and fiber, they form like this barrier around the sugar molecules in the gut. And if you don't have that barrier, those sugar molecules just all sprint at the same time into the bloodstream, causing the spike. Now, what happens then is your body's needing to secrete more insulin. And you probably know that by having higher than normal or average insulin levels, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, because now it becomes very difficult to lose fat around the middle area, the abdominal area. There's been a very interesting meta-analysis study that was conducted, I think it was 2013, 2014, around there, where they looked at a whole lot of different studies. And they showed that people whose insulin level is on the top tier of normal, so your doctor will say to you, you've had your blood test, don't worry, it's normal, but it's that top tier of normal. Those people, on average, picked up 9.3 kilograms more than the people who were middle or bottom tier of normal over a 10-year period. So it's looking at about 1 kilogram a year. And there's a strong message there. And the message is you want to control your insulin levels. So by having drinks sort of that, or foods that are just pure starch and with very little protein or fat or fiber to hold back those sugar molecules, you're really doing yourself a bit of an injustice. And again, it's also about portion. So if you were to have 1/4 of a cup of the orange juice, it's probably not going to make a big difference, because yes, all those sugar molecules run into the bloodstream at the same time, but there aren't many. So it's not going to cause a major spike. So the message there is combine your foods correctly. Rather eat your starches than drink them, because naturally when you're drinking them, you're going to consume a whole lot. And when you're eating them, hopefully a lot of the time you've got some protein, some fiber, and some fat in the mix, which is automatically going to form that barrier and control the rate at which those sugar molecules enter the bloodstream. All right, so if we move on to the next slide, we see there's a protein bar on the left and a lunch bar on the right. So there again, very similar overall calorie, but when you look at the protein content, significantly different. So you can see obviously the protein bar in terms of macronutrients, much better balanced, getting more nutrients there, but at the same time, also very, very easy to, when your food, and like I said, in liquid format, or if it's in bar format, or even sort of the protein powders and that type of thing, or meal replacements, it's often very, very difficult to control calories, and it's often very easy to overdose on calories because all of those calories are so compacted. So it doesn't actually feel like you've eaten a big meal, because it's just a bar, or it's just a glass of juice or Coke. So you must just be mindful of that as well, is that Very, very difficult to overdo your calories when the foods are processed. So yes, between these two options, the left would be a better option, more nutritious, but not to say that it is nutritious. Having a whole meal would be first prize. All right, and then I'm sure you're all familiar with this one. We've got sort of the fresh fruit versus the dried fruit, and it's very, very easy to overdo it when it comes to dried fruit. It always makes me think of when I had just given birth to my second daughter many years ago, and I think it was one of those 3 o'clock wake-ups to breastfeed moments, and a friend had given me a whole bag of dried fruit, and I was just like, I'm hungry, and I'm sad, and I'm stressed, and I'm tired, and I devoured so many of those dried fruit. I think it was dried apricots, and it didn't end well at all for me or my daughter. But it's just so easy because now it's so concentrated forms of energy there that you can easily down a lot. Whereas if you have the whole fruit, I mean, I would never have been able to go through the equivalent in whole fruit because the fiber is going to fill you up. There's a lot of fluid as well. Okay, so just something to be very aware of. And if you compare the calorie difference there between the fresh pear and the dried pears for the same mass, you'll see it's significantly different. All right, so just to summarize as well, it's really important that we don't label foods good or bad. Some of what we notoriously call bad foods are actually quite good because they give you a lot of feel-good hormones. And if you control when you eat them and how much you eat, how often you eat them, then it's absolutely fine. Okay, the important thing is to be mindful. Be mindful of the foods and be empowered with the knowledge and know that if you're drinking your calories, it's very easy to overdose. And it's not to say never drink them, but pace yourself and don't do it often. Some of them keep you a lot more full, like if you were to have all the fresh pears versus the dried pears. Again, it's the likelihood of overdosing on calories is much, much less. And another message that needs to come across strongly is that, and I think I mentioned that earlier, is that yes, you could make it so that in the week you still meet your calorie requirements, but you meet them through all the non-nutritious foods. And yes, from a weight point of view, you'll do okay, you'll lose your weight and all good, but you're not going to be very healthy. And that is really important. You need to make sure that you first fill your cup with the nutritious foods, and then you can top up with the not so nutritious foods where you get feel-good hormones as opposed to nutrients. All right, and then I thought we need to add a bit of a twist here. And I think what's really important is that we discuss the upcoming festive season, and I know it affects different people in different ways. Some people on holidays, some are not, some are working shifts, some have work functions, some spend time with family, some don't, some are on your own. And it's just important that you work out a strategy now, rather than when you're in the midst of it, because then it becomes very difficult. So as long as you're planning ahead, and you have your strategy, you're going to be in a much better position. So just some things that I've thought of is, and I've just jotted them down, but I'm hoping that you can come up with a whole lot more ideas and share your ideas with everybody. But sort of if you're getting together with family, with friends, maybe suggest a walk or a hike and a picnic afterwards, rather than just meeting at a restaurant. Because there you're burning calories by doing some activity, and also you're unlikely to eat too much during the picnic. It's more, you're not going to just sit down and the focus is not going to be purely about eating. The big one here as well that I think is relevant to all of us is that you don't want to be going out for a meal on an empty stomach. And I think often, and this one's linked to the next point about don't skip meals. Often we think, oh, okay, we're going out for a nice dinner, so I'm not going to eat lunch, I'm not going to eat breakfast, I'm not going to have afternoon snack. So by the time you get to your meal, your eyes are this big, your tummy is grumbling, and you know what? You're going to choose that massive extra size, super size pizza plus this and this because you are so hungry. Your body's sending out signals saying, feed me, feed me. So that's not a good position to be in. And it takes about 20 minutes for the signal to get from your gut to your brain to say, I'm full, I've had enough. And we know how quickly we normally eat. We can do a lot of damage in 20 minutes. So the message there is continue to normally eat your structured meals. And then you're going to definitely be in a much better position to judge what you should be eating and to control your portion sizes when you do go out. Okay, and the other one where I've been guilty as charged, especially in lockdown, is the don't stockpile your treats statement, which I use over and over again. And really, I mean, My thing is chocolate. I'm sure you know that by now, for those who listen to a few of my talks. If there's any form of chocolate in the house, I will literally be working on nutrition-related things late at night, and I will hunt down that chocolate when the girls are sleeping, because I love chocolate. So just by having it there, it just makes it so much more difficult. So when you get your treats, get enough just for that one sitting, rather than buying bulk and save. And if you're baking something, and it's okay to bake, as long as you control your portions, but rather than leaving it there, leaving the cake, the cupcakes there to shout out your name when you go into the kitchen, rather freeze them, because it's not as tempting if you've got to sort of defrost first and then eat it. It buys you a little bit of time. So that's another strategy. And then also, especially for me, very, very important, is that be easy on yourself. Plan for some treats, and including the spontaneous ones. And I know it sounds like a bit of oxymoron there, plan for spontaneous treats, but it's so important. If you say to yourself, I can have 4 treats in the week, you need to say, right, you know what, today a friend popped around, didn't expect it, having a glass of wine. Oh, that was spontaneous, didn't plan for it, but tick, I've had one of my treats for the week. And then just take that into consideration as you enter the weekend or further on in the week. So really, really important. And I think just on that note as well, festive season, we need the change of pace. And it's okay to have your afternoon naps. It's okay to maybe do less exercise, to do more walks, that type of thing. And just to chill and relax, just keep the momentum going. Don't lose the momentum, but definitely give yourself a little bit of a break. I think that is so important. Okay, I seem to have been speaking a lot. Let's go back and look. Hello, so glad to see everybody here. Hi, Amy. Hi, Justine. Lovely to see you there. Hi, Nancy. Suzanne. Lovely to see everyone. Ah, Coach Samuel. Hello. Yay, Samuel there agrees with me. Definitely not a cheat meal. Definitely a treat meal. Hi, Sue. Yes, so Samuel, being pregnant herself, just a friendly warning. If anybody gives you dried fruit, give it away. It really didn't end well for me. It's very difficult to control the portions there. Hello, Karen, Carol. Yes, I'm so glad everybody's agreeing with me there on the concept of treat versus cheat. Hello, Isabel. So let's see, are there any questions? Lovely. So Carol agrees, need to freeze that leftover cake and get it out of sight, out of mind, hopefully. And look, if you're willing to wake up in the middle of the night and defrost and eat, then quite frankly, you deserve that cake. It's a lot of effort that goes into it, but the chances are minimal that you will do that. All right. So I would like, now I'm going to challenge you to share some of your strategies for the festive seasons, things that have worked in the past, things that you think are going to work. Let's share a few ideas, just so that everyone can benefit. And maybe just let me know who has planned for the festive season or what the plans are. Maybe you're somebody who has a lot of social events, maybe families coming to visit, maybe lots of work functions, and that's also a difficult one, especially when there's a buffet available. Let me know if anyone's got some ideas. Yes, so Justine, freezing leftovers. Absolutely, yeah. So that seriously, it's a win, and it's also so nice because somebody pops around, you haven't planned for it, and you can now suddenly just sort of go and take something out, chat for a bit, and you've got something available, as opposed to having to keep things like biscuits and chips and things available for in case, because we know it doesn't always last for the in case visitor pops in. All right. So Coach Zama, maybe you can share some of your ideas, some of your tips, if you have some there. I think often for me as well, it's very much about all the family getting together and everybody bringing their own treats, and it's difficult when everybody else is sort of filling their plate or having all those snacks available, and then for you to sort of pace yourself and step back a little bit. What I found works well with the kids, for those of you who have kids, is don't just put a big bowl of the crisps or whatever it is when you're having your braais out for everyone to help themselves. I mean, we learned that the hard way. You need to almost portion it out, because for kids it's difficult to say, you know what, no, pace yourself. But if you give them each their own individual bowl, it definitely makes it easier, and they can come and request a refill, but at least you're still managing the situation. You've got control over it. Fantastic, Mashabi, going for a hike, absolutely. And it's good for the heart, good for the soul, good for everything. Definitely getting out, getting fresh air. Isabel, Okay, discovered abstinence. No, not that kind, but the alcohol-free version of G&Ts from Woolies. Lovely, there we go. So that also, and I think that's a very good point there, Isabel, is that if there's something that you know is your trigger, that you know you're going to find difficult to manage and control, maybe it's a case of all or nothing. So maybe then that works for you. So you say, well, if I have one glass, and I'm going to have a whole lot more. So maybe I'll have the alcohol-free version instead. And that's a brilliant tip as well, is that you know yourself, you know what your triggers are. And if it's something I know, with another client, her trigger is, and I don't know if you're listening, but I'm not going to mention your name, but her trigger is cashew nuts. It's a relatively healthy trigger. But for her, if there's any form of cashew nuts available, she will have the whole bag. And obviously that can turn nasty as well. But like the dried apricots incident that I had previously, it can be relatively healthy, but in very large quantities, it can definitely have a profound negative effect. Carol, we plan as a family who's going to bring what, and that helps. And yes, we give the kids a bowl. Fantastic, Carol. So you're definitely on the right track there. And the planning, I think the big important word there is planning. Definitely. If you plan, things are going to be a whole lot easier. And again there, I just want to emphasize the importance of it, because quite a few of my clients have done this in the past, and it's a case of, no, I knew it was going to be a big event, so I didn't eat for the whole day because I didn't want to. I knew I was going to have more calories. You're actually totally shooting yourself in the foot there, because you are, yes, going to have more calories, but you're going to choose all the wrong foods as well. So you're not going to nourish your body. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel hungry. And invariably, if you skip meals the whole day and then you suddenly eat such a large quantity of food, you're going to have digestive issues as well. So the whole experience is going to be a bit negative. So that, for me, that's a biggie, is that do not starve yourself in preparation for a meal. Justine, a nice tip there as well. I'm not going to be drinking alcohol this season, so planning on using SodaStream to spice up some non-alcoholic options. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really nice. And a lot of the time as well, if you just want something slightly different, just having sparkling water and adding some mint or some lemon, adding some strawberries to the mix, you feel like it's a slightly more special drink than just plain tap water. So to experiment with things like that as well, really, really important. Absolutely. So nice flavored waters, but without the sweetness, without the sugar. Also really, really good options there. So I love the ideas that are coming through here. And I think sort of the alcohol thing definitely comes through. And I think it's a big challenge for a lot of people. And those people who will continue to drink alcohol, another tip there, and I'm sure your coach would have shared this with you already, is that don't just continue to drink to sort of quench thirst, especially when it comes to savannas and beers and that type of beverage. Make sure and plan to have one glass of water or sparkling water in between each alcoholic beverage. So that it's not a case of, and you have to plan that, because it becomes so easy to just like fill up and continue, and you're having the salty crisps or the salty food, and you're actually drinking to quench thirst at the end of the day. And you need to be mindful of that and make sure that you're drinking enough water in between to slow yourself down, to pace yourself. Another comment that a previous client of mine made as well is that, you know what, it's not my fault. My glass keeps being filled up, just the wine glass, and they just keep filling it up. So my advice there was, well, don't drink it as fast, because then they won't be able to fill it up as quickly. So all of that as well. You're in control. I think that's the message, is that you're the one in control. So it's not about everybody else. Yes, there's environment around you, there's things happening. But if you plan, you will remain in control. You'll know how to deal with all of those situations. All right. I hope I haven't missed anybody. Any ideas that have come through here? But yes, it sounds like, it sounds like everybody's sort of been there, done that. I'm sure you have. And a lot of people have kids and they understand all the challenges around that. But again, like I mentioned before, so important that you give yourself a bit of a break over the festive season as well. And I really want to sort of advocate that, is that go in there planning to give yourself a bit of a break. Maintain things. Pick things up again when routine things get back to normal. As human beings, we need to have change of pace. We need to have change of scenery every now and then. We need to just change things and mix things up a little bit. And that's what the December holidays are often about. So don't deprive yourself, because as soon as you deprive yourself, it's just never going to be long term. We know that. We know that with treats, if you don't have treats ever, it's more like a diet as opposed to an eating plan or eating program. And it's important to bear that in mind with respect to exercise and with respect to relaxing. And I think a lot of us as moms as well, there's this major guilt that comes along with having an afternoon nap on the weekends. Because, like, when I haven't seen my kids much during the week, and I've been busy, they've been at school, and now it's time when we could play. They don't want to have afternoon naps anymore. This is their playing time. You've got to get rid of that as well. You need to look after yourself. You need to take time to recover. If you think back on the year and think how busy things are at the moment, if you don't look after yourself, you're not going to be that friendly mum who plays nice games anyway. So really that's also a big message, maybe slightly off the topic, but really important that you plan to take some time out and you don't feel guilty about it. There is no need to feel guilty about that. Okay. Well, it seems like we don't have too many more questions. I always say if you've got any questions that you'd like to just chat to me about, then please just direct message me and I'll be very, very happy to chat to you. But I'm feeling quite confident that everyone's planning and prepping and you'll all be absolutely fine over the festive season. And I think just really work on that whole cheat scenario. You need to embrace the treats. I don't actually like calling anything a cheat food or a bad food or anything like that because it's just way too negative. And you want to embrace, you want to get the feel-good hormones that you should be from having the treat. Then the other thing as well that I also wanted to briefly mention, and it looks like we've got a few more minutes if there aren't any other questions, is that sometimes we at Jeff, we advocate sort of the 1.5 days off in a week. And I just want to also sort of throw it out there to you, and a few of you we would have chatted about this already, is that if you're somebody who's got the mindset of sort of all or nothing approach, then I would urge you to spread that 1.5 days out across the week. So rather say to yourself, okay, so that's equivalent to about 4 treats, and I'm going to have 2 spontaneous, 2 planned treats, and spread it out Monday to Sunday, and enjoy it that way, as opposed to coming to Friday night or Saturday night and saying, right, now this is it, I'm going to make up for lost time. And you invariably then are just going to go completely overboard, and you will be riddled with all those negative emotions that come with sort of binge eating type behavior. So definitely think about it. If you are currently saving all your treats for the weekend, I would definitely urge you to rather split that up. Say to yourself, I've got 4 treats. It can be 1 glass of wine. It can be a portion of starch with dinner. It can be a small chocolate bar, and just spread those out. And I would also really urge you to make some of them spontaneous, because that's so exciting. So if it's a case of, I don't know, hubby phones who says, you know what, do you want a chocolate? I'm at the shops now. Would you like a chocolate tonight? Or whatever the case is. And you say yes, and you get your small chocolate bar. It's a spontaneous treat. So you tick it off. And then those ones that you plan for are fantastic as well. I always use that example of the pizza once a term, where we get so excited, the whole family does. So that the whole emotion around waiting for that pizza, it's worth it. It really is. So just also be mindful of that as well. Hello, Cornelia. Lovely to see you. And Auntie Pat, I was wondering where you were. I was going to DM you, actually, but lovely to see you. So I hope everybody got something from this. I hope it's food for thought. And yes, hope you have a super, super weekend. Good luck with load shedding. And we will chat soon. Cheers for now.